so I'm calling the meeting to order. It is 6:35. Welcome to everyone. Up first is our consent agenda. We have our prior minutes from the September 3rd regular meeting, as well as the September 17th special meeting. We have a number of policy reads. First read on policies. Any discussion, questions, concerns from the board about those?
Speak up, please. I'm sorry.
Yep, I will do my best. Yep, absolutely. So we're just doing our consent agenda, which entails the prior minutes from the last two meetings in September, as well as policy reads. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda. And we are all here in person, correct?
So I don't have any board members online.
Okay, perfect. So all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, great. Any need, Lynn, to reprioritize the flow of the meeting?
No.
No. Okay. All right, so this brings us to our public comment. How's my volume for people? I understand the math can sometimes be a little challenging. I'll do my very best to enunciate and speak loudly. So given how many people are in the room tonight, this is quite a turnout. I want to just kind of set the ground rules for the meeting so that we can have an effective public comment process here. Normally we only have 10 minutes or so set aside, but I know there are a lot of people who would like to speak tonight, so we're going to have 2 minutes per person. Emily will be my timekeeper. And so our expectations for tonight's discussion, as outlined in our district code of conduct, all community members, including board members, staff, and those participating in public comment, are expected to show respect, treat others with kindness and consideration, listen to others' perspectives, and use respectful language. Communicate clearly, share information honestly and in a straightforward way. Create safe learning environments, help ensure all spaces are physically and emotionally safe for everyone. Practice self-awareness, recognize your own emotions and the impact on others. Our code specifically calls on all of us to speak calmly and courteously, listen actively when others are speaking, and use appropriate language and tone. We will not tolerate shouting, insulting, threatening, swearing, or humiliating language directed at any community member. We understand that our community holds diverse viewpoints, and we respect the right of community members to express their perspective during public comment. However, we ask that all comments tonight focus on constructive dialogue rather than personal attacks, and that speakers remember that the young people we serve may be listening to these recorded proceedings. When we disagree, our code of conduct calls on us to focus on solutions rather than blame, and to work toward building positive relationships and addressing the root causes of conflict. The board will listen respectfully to all public comments that adhere to our behavioral expectations. We reserve the right to pause or end comments that violate our code of conduct or create an unsafe environment for any community member. For tonight's public comment period, we have a speaker list that's circulating. If you want to address the board, please add your name, which it looks like everyone has done. As I said, we're going to do 2 minutes per person, and we will use a timer to ensure fairness for all who wish to participate. When your time approaches the 2-minute limit, I'll provide a gentle reminder so you can conclude your remarks. Please understand that public comment is an opportunity for community members to share their perspectives with the board and administration. We will listen actively to everyone's comments, but there will be no back and forth, debate, or discussion during this time. The board may choose to respond to questions or concerns at a later time or through appropriate channels. We have a full agenda for tonight's meeting, and it may be necessary to end public comment after 30 minutes. If there are community members who still wish to be heard, we encourage anyone who's unable to speak tonight or who prefers to share their thoughts in writing to submit their comments to the board. Written comments can be submitted before or after the meeting and will be reviewed by all board members. I appreciate everyone being here, and with that, I will start with Tosca Smith of Montgomery.
Go first. Oh,
You want someone else to go first?
it's fine. I'm assuming that. Good evening, board and members of many communities. My name is Tosca Smith, longtime resident of Montgomery. I am here tonight because I was sent a pretty alarming video of the last school board meeting where I felt that there was reason to come and show my support for Montgomery Elementary School specifically. Having 3 children that went to this school and came out of it awesome, amazing. Did I always agree with this school board? Absolutely not. I was the firebrand that got rid of Sally Foster fundraising. Couldn't stand it. It's run by slave labor in China. Why didn't everybody have the same feeling? I did not let my children participate. They came home in tears. Mommy, mommy, everybody else is selling Sally Foster. I said, you will not, because little kids in China are making this crap, and fostering it upon your neighbors is not the way we're gonna roll. And then there was the DARE program. Oh my goodness, hell no. My kids were not gonna be stuck in a room with a bunch of cops asking them if their daddy smoked pot. Wasn't gonna happen. Not gonna happen. And I voiced my opposition and I was heard. But the thing was that my children didn't have to do the DARE program. It was my choice that they didn't have to sit there and, in my view, be indoctrinated. I didn't agree with the program. I still don't agree with the program. I think it makes enemies of people that are not supposed to be enemies. It sets neighbors against neighbors. It was, in my opinion, harmful. So my children were allowed, without any ramifications, to sit it out. They went to the library. They read Lord of the Rings when they were 10 years old because they were that smart because of this school. They are all 3 very successful. But I do want to bring up
That's your time, Tosca, so just quickly wrap it
Okay.
up. Thank you.
But they did support my middle daughter, who is non-binary, not normal, and totally out of control. They never made me put her on drugs. They never made me feel anything but an awesome mom. So congratulations to Montgomery Elementary School. Thank you for the work you did in raising my 3 children, who are all awesome. Full support. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Tosca. Okay. I have Jared and Michelle Valancourt. Jared, are you both speaking separately?
Yeah, unless I run out of time.
I beg your pardon?
Unless I run out of time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Jared Valancourt from Berkshire. I've spoken here before, and I've told you that many parents share my concerns. To be honest, parents are tired of the empty rhetoric and gaslighting that we've gotten from the school administration. Parents are tired of the outright promotion of gender ideology in our schools. We're tired of critical race theory. We're tired of anti-racist policies, which is just another way of saying racism. And we're tired of the ever-changing diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. These initiatives are actively promoted by the leadership in the school district, and I think I'd be able to say that you're just following guidelines from the Agency of Education. But just because you have the right to do something does not mean that you are right to doing it. To borrow a term from you, parents are tired of being marginalized. But most importantly, the education needs of our children are not being met. Now, you admitted that our children continue to be well below proficiency, and children are struggling with reading, math, and science. But do you know what they're not struggling with? Knowing about climate change, identifying victims and oppressors, blaming everything on white supremacy with patriarchy, being activists. And they definitely are not struggling on knowing what pronoun to use. Now we hear from parents that have sent their kids to college and they quickly realize how woefully unprepared they are. And despite all this, every year we hear the same thing. If we just had more money, we could hire more staff. We could offer more programs, and we could be more equitable. Children's education would be better. We've heard the same thing for over 30 years. And the only thing that we have shown for it is an education system that has grown larger and more expensive, and the educational results, despite good intentions, which have gotten worse. And we've heard from many of you here that systemic racism is a problem in our schools. That is not true. But what is a problem is the systemic bureaucracy in the public education system that continually gets rewarded with more of our tax dollars despite producing dismal results.
Jared, if you
This
can
comes at a
wrap it up.
significant cost, both financially and to the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline Elander.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Elander. We've been living, I'm sorry, I'm going to be nervous. Please bear with me. We've been living in Berkshire since 2010. Our elder daughter started first grade at Berkshire in 2010, and our younger daughter started in preschool and continued through to the middle of her 8th grade year in 2023. I've been working part-time at the school, helping with technology since our youngest started kindergarten. The school has been a huge part of our lives for the past 15 years. We have never seen or heard about any staff or teachers trying to push an agenda around LGBTQ or Black Lives Matter. What we have seen is teachers and staff encouraging kids to think for themselves, treating them with respect, and giving them the support they need to feel safe and valued. Having said this, we do feel that early exposure to these ideas, presented in simple, age-appropriate ways, builds empathy, creates safer classrooms, and helps all children feel valued and accepted for who they are and feel it would benefit all the students to understand the diversity in this world. As happy as we are with the time our children attended BES, there was one issue which caused us great disappointment. We had to make a very difficult decision to pull our 13-year-old out of school in the middle of 8th grade because of racism from other students. She had been targeted from early on, and we had considered changing schools, but she didn't want to leave her friends. Once she was old enough to really understand what was going on, she realized she couldn't continue. Her teachers did their best to help, but the reality is that racism runs deep in our community. And our daughter did not feel safe or respected. No child should have to sacrifice their education to protect their well-being. I'd like to invite all of us to open a conversation about the many different backgrounds, cultures, and ways of living that make up our broader world. Here in our
Caroline, if you
community,
can
many
come to a
families
close.
only see and know what is right around them, but our children deserve the chance to learn about and appreciate the wide range of human experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Farmer?
Thank you and good evening. I would like to urge the board to not sign on, and I don't think you will, to the current Washington administration's DEI and anti-pride bigotry. And also, don't deny knowledge to anybody, any student, just because somebody else thinks it's wrong. Let people judge for themselves. Thank you.
I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the last name. Laura Baylen? B-A-Y-L-E-N? How do you spell it? Boylan. Okay, apologies.
I am here today, I wanted to start off that there was a lot of parents that came up to me.
Speaking to the microphone.
The microphone is really for the online people.
Let's start over.
Absolutely, go for it.
Okay, I want to put on record that there are parents that fear speaking out regarding what I'm going to talk about today. They fear their children will pay for this, or fear there'll be a penalty in practicing free speech. That's alarming to hear, and I don't feel like their concerns are for nothing. So, I'm just going to cut it down here. I'm here standing alongside all the parents, concerned community members to talk about our school district's current expression and practice relating to sexuality and gender. To talk about the disrespect for parents' rights regarding their children's health and wellness. To talk about the major disconnect with school leaders and acknowledge what is age and developmentally appropriate classroom instruction, education, and display. Not only to bring light to these harmful actions, but to propose a school model that will encourage conducive school instruction, a plan to improve acceptable factual knowledge and provide a fair chance for our child's future success as critical thinkers, citizens, and leaders of the state of Vermont. Our concerns are stemming from the stickers, flyers, decorated boards supporting GSA, outright, and pride symbols in our schools. Alongside the GSA display at Berkshire Elementary, the placement of this board is unsettling. The celebratory board covered in butterflies and rainbows is right outside the kindergarten classroom. I can't imagine what 5-year-old would be drawn to that. But Mr. Roddy wanted to assure me, I quote, "Our campus offers GSA for our older students and maintains a board with information." Another instance is a teacher giving a pride presentation and celebration in the Berkshire gym. The youngest children in the school were in attendance. There's a lot of parents that didn't even know this occurred until this last week when the video resurfaced. This is why parents are concerned. If this is happening without our knowledge, what else are we missing? It alarms us the information being presented in school. These ideas and opinions being presented as facts. Our children are not graduates who develop social and cognitive skills. These are vulnerable children that lack the emotional maturity to
Laura, if
fully
you can
understand
come to
what
a
they're
close,
being exposed to,
please.
which presents confusion and distrust. Michelle Irish is the Director for the Advancement of Education Quality, formerly known as the Director for Advancement of Education Equity. She wanted to ease my concern by graciously handing out resources. Many of us went through those, find that they were biased. And aside from that, an email response came in last week from Mr. Roddy addressing concerns but not answering my questions. Shortly thereafter, I got an email from Ms. Irish.
Laura,
The email was laid out.
I have to call time. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to adhere to the same rules that I'm setting for everyone.
That's okay.
If you can submit that to the board, it sounds like there's some anecdotes and context that you'd like to provide us, so you could.
Community members to know there is an opt-out form, so please visit FNESU Parents Protecting Children on Facebook. Thank you.
Emily Grims.
Hello, my name is Emily Grims. I'm a Berkshire resident with a child in Berkshire Elementary School. I want to start by saying that schools must be safe, supportive environments for every student. But that commitment doesn't require schools to bring in outside groups tied to social or political movements. Even when those intentions are good, doing so can blur the lines between education and advocacy, because these groups often carry broader political agendas that don't belong in our schools. That said, preparing students for the real world means acknowledging and reflecting the world as it is, which includes people who are Black, gay, trans, Muslim, disabled, and many others. Ignoring that diversity doesn't protect students. It leaves them unprepared to engage effectively and successfully in the world around them. Beyond being a social reality, inclusion is a legal principle. In this country, we're protected by laws that don't discriminate. Teaching students to respect one another isn't about pushing a political agenda. It's about upholding the law and modeling the values that our society has chosen. Teaching respect for all is teaching civic responsibility. Public schools don't shift their curriculum based on personal opinions. They're guided by state and federal laws. Those laws clearly state that discrimination is not permitted. It's not about political correctness, it's about legal responsibility and the educational integrity to reflect the real world. If someone disagrees with those laws, advocate for change at the state or national level. That's how change happens in a democracy. But until those laws change, what schools are teaching is not a personal agenda. It's a reflection of the legal and civic framework of our country. So if you're angry, don't direct that anger at the school or the school board, direct it at the laws themselves, because until those laws change, the school is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Moving on to the specific concerns of the bulletin board that seemed to start this firestorm, my only concern is its connection to a national organization whose mission might be misinterpreted as promoting a specific lifestyle. The core message of the board, it literally only says, all are welcome here. That's inclusive and it's universal. I see no problem with that. I'll wrap up, thank you. The same message could easily be conveyed through something as simple as a Come As You Are club that's not tied to a political organization. A rainbow or ally sticker sends the same signal. Students are accepted without condition. That's not a social movement, it's about creating a sense of safety and belonging, which are fundamental to learning and at the heart of why schools exist in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sarah Stewart. I'm a Berkshire resident, and I have a student who is in 6th grade. They were in 6th grade at Berkshire, and now they're in 6th grade, or they were in 5th grade at Berkshire, and we transitioned them to Montgomery. So just for information's sake, suicide is the second leading cause of death in the United States for people between 10 and 34 years old. There are 2 times more suicides in this country than there are homicides. People with disabilities, students with disabilities, are 2 times more likely to attempt suicide. Students who are BIPOC are 2 times more likely than white students to attempt suicide. LGBTQIA and others of our community are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide than adults. So I am including for the board the annual suicide data report like I did last year. This one is for 2024. What I want to say is I have a child in this district who is disabled, who is BIPOC, who is queer, and who is trans. I myself am an out lesbian and have been for my entire career, and that is 25 years. What I can say is racism does actively exist in our community, as does homophobia, transphobia, and disrespect of disabled people. My child had to leave the Berkshire Elementary School not because of the administration or the school policies. It had to leave because the racism coming to school with your children and the transphobia coming to school with children had my child every single day from 2nd grade on being bullied. I'll wrap up. One last thing, in their final year at Berkshire, they were physically attacked, they were verbally attacked, and post the Trump election, they were told that they had no value. They were repeatedly, every single day, harassed for who they are. So what I need to say to you is, in an environment today where there's less community than we've ever had, why are we attacking each other rather than finding ways to unify and support each other? I'm not out there attacking your children. Why is it okay to not protect mine?
If you can... Sarah Conroy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Como. My husband, Vaughn, and I are parents of a 5th grader. My journey to this meeting started when my daughter was told by a fellow student that she couldn't play tetherball because she's black. 1 year and a few N-words later, from multiple students, we moved her from Berkshire to Montgomery. Unfortunately, since then, I've known several other students experiencing racially motivated and gender-related bullying in our union, even in the last couple of weeks. My point, kids in our community are being hurt right now because of the color of their skin and their gender identity. I can't help wondering where the outrage is for this reality. Where is the concern for the mental health of these kids before any more are hurt and uprooted? Unfortunately, now I'm seeing parents on Facebook coming together around their fear of what they call a DEI and pride agenda. I believe using this term creates a very unhelpful, divisive, and reactionary conversation. If you see me as a walking agenda, then you might see me as a threat to your ideas. Instead of your having empathy for what my family has been through and what my child needs. And instead of believing that I care about your children too. I understand that we might question how information and organizations are presented in our schools, especially in an age-appropriate manner. But the wholesale removal of information that supports Black, Brown, and LGBTQ+ students cannot be tolerated. Please keep in mind that when it comes to issues of what our kids look like, how they identify, and who they will eventually love, no school, no teacher, no book is or can teach your child to become something they're not. So I believe in our teachers and our staff, and that you want the best, and we can all learn to teach our kids to be curious, open-minded, and interested in each other's differences. And I'm available for further conversation about my experiences and my perspective. Thank you.
Emily Cutting?
So I'm here regarding a primary concern centered on age appropriateness for elementary grade students. And I believe the core focus for students in this age range should be on fundamental academic subjects such as reading, writing, math, and science, alongside character development skills like kindness, empathy, respect, and conflict resolution. And this is brought upon based off of the board that is in the elementary school outside of the kindergarten classroom. My 5-year-old cannot read, but he does know what Pride Month and how to use a computer is. His most exciting part of his day is getting a laptop at 5 years old, but he can't read. So my concern is brought to the fact that he knows what these things are at 5 years old. That is sexualizing children. It is bringing things to them at such a young age that they truly do not understand. And I do believe that these kids can be, I can't think of the word, brought into these subjects that they can't process at such a young age. It should be coming from home what they want, what they need, asking their parents, how do we do this? What is gay pride? Let your parents explain that to them. And if there needs to be a separate spot in the school that these kids can learn that and have that so there is a safe space for them, nobody here is saying that they're against that. We're saying that we don't want it to be part of every single day in school. It's not appropriate. School is learning, school is reading, school is science, school is math. But they are not doing that. They know other things before they know the basic fundamentals of school. And it's inappropriate and it should not be in the schools at 5 years old. And there was a video that came out that there was a gay pride assembly and the youngest kids were sitting in that and the parents had no idea that that even occurred in the school. And some parents may have been okay with their kids attending, but we didn't get that chance. And to end the statement, our children know what gay pride is, but they are not being taught that it's okay to be straight and white. There is no posters in the school of a mother and father. There is no posters saying white lives matter. But then people are saying that this is just totally inappropriate, and it's not. It's a war on our children. Thank you.
You said no one online?
Nobody has
And no
written in.
one who was late?
No.
So I think they're, right. Brent,
I'm going to yield my time to someone.
you're good, Mr. Godin? Okay. Did I miss anyone? Yeah, absolutely, yep. You can have the same 2 minutes that everyone has had, of course. And if you can state your name for the record.
My name is Michelle Valencourt. I did not plan to speak at all. This is not my strength. And I listened to these stories of all of our students, and I'm appalled at what I'm hearing. And I think the core issue that my takeaway is right now is not what your beliefs are. I think it all boils down to a disciplinary issue. Like, all of our students are equal. All of our students are have so much potential in their future. And it just breaks my heart to hear that anyone is being hurt in any way. It's not a racial issue. It is not a sexual issue. I've seen the smart kids get bullied. Everybody has to deal with it in some way. And the bottom line is it's a disciplinary issue, and we have got to get these kids and the environment that they are being taught in under control so that it's not a danger emotionally or physically, right? Because I don't know if you guys have had kids who have had physical encounters at your school, and I know we did, and it all boils down, in my opinion, to that. We have got to get these kids disciplined in a way that creates a safe environment so that the bullying doesn't happen, regardless of what the issue is. Smart kids, disabled kids, whatever label you want to put on it, the label is not the issue. And that's where the division is. The label is the problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. I just want to make sure everyone who wanted to speak has spoken and I didn't miss anyone. Okay, I appreciate everyone coming out tonight and sharing your perspectives. The board takes it very seriously, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you. We do have a very long meeting ahead of us, so I'm certainly happy to kind of pause for take a beat if anyone wants to dip now before we dive in, but of course everyone is welcome to stay for the entirety of the meeting.
Well,
It's not that bad.
we're talking about us.
Michelle, sorry I couldn't hear you. Of course, absolutely. Thank you for coming.
They presented and they're like, yes, everybody's here. They're like, are you ready for us?
All right. So, great, all right. Then moving on, we have Sandy with our Montgomery Elementary Spotlight.
Yes. Thank you all for being here tonight.
My spotlight tonight is thanks to our second and third grade teachers, Emily Fleury and Christina Bowen, and their wonderful crew of second and third graders. And I'm going to let them explain it all, but just to give you an idea, is our new literacy program is MyView Literacy, and each unit has opportunities for extension. And so they did an extension to a unit, and it has to do with community. So I'm going to let them explain the rest.
I'm Christina Bowen. I'm second and third grade literacy teacher along with Emily Fleury, who teaches math and science. So our students embarked on an exciting integrated community unit using the MyView literacy program alongside the global citizenship standards. Throughout the unit, students explored what it means to be a citizen in their community while developing literacy and collaboration skills. They worked in small groups, they researched and discussed important places in Montgomery, learning about their roles and values within the town. And through collaborative discussions and guided instruction, learners explored the concepts of community and the impact on our daily lives, fostering connections between text to self and text to world. Students engaged in brainstorming to identify key community features and what makes their community special and unique. This project not only strengthened their reading and writing skills, but also fostered pride in their local community and understanding their role as a global citizen. This is what they produced. Yes, hopefully. Really hope.
Welcome everyone. Today we're going to take a tour around our community. Let's see all the wonderful places we have in our side. The rec center.
Kids and family come here to play sports and have fun.
People use it to stay healthy, play basketball, soccer, tennis, listen to music, and celebrate. You should visit because it's a place where everyone can move, laugh, and play together. You should come to the Montgomery Rec Center to have fun.
Welcome to Sylvester's grocery store.
Families and neighbors shop here. People use it to buy food, drinks, and things we need at home.
You should visit Sylvester's because fresh food helps everybody stay healthy and strong. Welcome to the Montgomery Library. This is where children and adults come to read and learn. People use it to borrow books, use computers, and listen to story time. You should visit the Montgomery Library because books can take you anywhere, even outer space.
Welcome to Montgomery's Fire Station.
Montgomery firefighters work here. People use it to get help when there's a fire or emergency.
You should visit the fire department to thank the firefighters for keeping us safe and maybe see a fire truck up close.
This is our Montgomery Art Center. Artists and students come here to make and share art. People use it to paint, draw, dance, and enjoy shows. It's a great place to express yourself through art.
You should visit the Montgomery Art Center because art makes our town colorful and creative. Thank you, the Montgomery Art Center. Thank you all.
There are many different options for dining here in Montgomery. Bernie's, the Belfry, the Snowshoe, the Inn, Cafe Omakase, Wood Fire Pizza, and the Black Lantern. People use it to eat yummy food and spend time together.
You should visit Montgomery because trying new foods is exciting and delicious.
But there is one thing we can all agree on. They're all really yummy.
Look, this is our natural swimming hole. Family and friends come here to have fun. They use it to swim, relax, and enjoy nature like this image shows. You should visit Montgomery to enjoy the natural water. The air is fresh and it's a perfect place for fun. Local swimming holes in Montgomery. That's our community. It's special because of the people who use it. Thanks for joining us today. Come back soon.
Put that on the tourism website. They used a green screen and everything, so.
That's fantastic. What a wonderful way for kids to be able to not only learn about the community, but to be able to teach others about it. And I love the skills that they had to demonstrate to be able to do that. People might not realize how much it must have gone on for them to be able to produce that.
It was the first 6 days of school. It was a big undertaking, but they rose up to the challenge. They did great. And we were excited to take on, we were introduced to the green screen and We Video at in-service. And we were really excited to try that out with the kids. And there are some little hiccups that we will find, you know, that we've come across, but we're figuring it out and it's working really well. And the kids are excited, so they're gonna do a digital newsletter to their parents every once in a while. So, little newscasters.
Great job. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. That was really sweet. All right, so that brings us to Morgan with the financial report.
There's nothing better than presenting a budget right after the school
Cute children.
than me. Everything on my report is informational except for the budget, and we will go through the slideshow that many of you are familiar with. This is a truncated version. We're just going to be focusing on staffing and proposed staffing changes at this point. I sent to board members a copy of the slide deck as well as a staffing list. And as tipped in that email, both of them have changed since I sent that copy out. So this is always an area that's going to be in flux until we get to the end of January. So I'm going to the next slide. This will be hard to read on the screen, but we do start all of these discussions with student enrollment. You can see the details in what you have in your email, but we are projecting for the district as a whole growth over the next 5 years. It seems to be driven primarily by Montgomery and Berkshire. Sheldon had a lot of growth in the last few years and seems to be trailing off, and then Bakersfield predicting a slower but still steady growth in that community as well. And I'm happy to share the details on how we get into that. Basically, we're looking at birth data from the census for each town and then looking at graduation rates. So for this year's second grade, we'll see how many of them were here in first grade and get a rough idea of how those schools are changing from year to year.
And Morgan, do you all ever take into account real estate data and like sales or construction of new homes?
I have not. It's certainly something that we kind of keep in the back of our mind. Communities like Sheldon, where we know that there's a lot of land that potentially could be converted to first homes. It's also a challenge right now because so many homes are not residential.
Right. They're second homes.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, thanks.
You've got the budget development schedule. The change from what I sent you out by email is that the next meeting is going to be Monday, November 3rd, not Wednesday, November 5th. But again, we are going through the process and hoping to finalize your budget at your January 2026 meeting. That will be before Enosburg Richford finalizes their budget, and about $4 million or so of your budget is money that you send to Enosburg and Richford. And so we may at that point want to wait 2 weeks, let them settle on what their tuition rate's going to be before we finalize this budget.
Are you proposing moving that January meeting?
I would not move it yet. We can kind of cycle back in December and see. We are still getting the sort of the big numbers for predicting the tax rates. The yield proposal, the CLA now, and the first look at your student count all are going to drop around December 1st. You've got a board meeting December 1st, so I'm going to try to pull as much of that data in as I can for that meeting. And hopefully they will get that a day or two early. We also try to tie the budget discussion to the board goals. These are in your packet. These have not been updated from last year, so I won't spend any time on them, but I will keep putting them in front of you and in front of voters in the budget book. Budget considerations. So this is really a living document or a living page of this document, and we will be tweaking it as we go along. In the budget that I'm showing tonight, I am showing an overall staffing reduction of 6 full-time equivalent staff. We'll go into what that means from a building-to-building base, but that's basically a 4% reduction in terms of your locally paid staff. We are predicting another year of double-digit health insurance premium increases. I've got 12.5 as a rough number right now.
Which is what it was last year about, eh?
Yep, which is why I'm using that number. At that rate, it's going to be around a $200,000 increase to your budget, assuming no other changes, people not changing from single to a two-person to a family plan or coming off insurance. VHI, which is the health cooperative that provides insurance for all educators in the state, is required to file their proposed rate increase by October 30th. So we will probably get a tip as to what the real percentage is a few days before that. That number won't become final until after you've warned a budget, but at that point we'll at least know what they're asking for. I think it's not going to be that far off from 12%. There are some changes both in the legislature and in the way the health plan is structured that is helping stem the increase. But unlike what you may have been hearing in chatter or in the newspaper, it certainly is far from being fixed. And we still have a lot of drivers for that usage. We also have a relatively high 8th grade class again, 89 students at the moment, replacing 55 seniors in the budget this year who will be graduating. It's not a one-to-one ratio because we know that as our 10th graders move into 11th grade, a lot of them move to tech centers, and so they kind of come off your regular tuition roll and eventually show up on your tech tuition roll. So I'm not suggesting that it's an increase of 34 kids, but it is definitely going to be an increase. And tuition rates generally go up. And with tuition overall being $7-ish million of your budget, or certainly around a third of your budget, even a small percentage increase there is a big increase. And so staffing and tuition are really the two places that you have some control to move the levers on this budget. Staffing in terms of the staffing plan and how many people we're going to have in buildings next year. Tuition is really if you want to touch the third rail and propose something to your voters like restricting their tuition choices. Certainly not going to recommend that, and I don't think it will pass, but that's really the only tool in your toolbox for really impacting that big $7+ million wedge of the pie.
Did we reduce purposefully the 6 full-time employees, or was that something that we couldn't get them staffed?
So it's a mix based on the building. They are all based on conversations that I've had with the principals over the last couple weeks. In many cases, they are positions in the budget that we didn't fill.
There's also an attention. I think that people are paying greater attention to class sizes, and we're going to talk a little bit about that under my section of the agenda. So I think that is playing in a little bit as well.
So the other thing that's playing in is the long-term federal funding picture. Lynn will talk in her section a little bit about the the government shutdown and the impact of that. What I'm really looking at is, in years out, what of those federal funding streams are most at risk for being cut? This current year, we have 3 interventionist positions that are paid out of consolidated federal programs. That's one of the funding streams that we're worried about getting reduced or getting cut altogether. In the budget that we're bringing to you tonight, 2 of those positions have been moved into the local budget. So it was actually a reduction of 8 positions, but 2 of them are backfilled by moving those 2 interventionists into your local budget from the federal funding stream. We're also keeping an eye on changes to Medicaid, which I think is maybe going to be more significant, but a slower roll. So as changes in Medicaid happen and trickle down to the states, there will be fewer families who are identified as being in poverty, which will reduce a number of the funding streams that we rely on, certainly more than our more well-off neighbors. This is Title I, which is part of consolidated federal programs, E-rate, which is a small tech-based reimbursement, and then both of the funding streams that we're using for after-school funding. We also need to continue the discussion around PCB remediation, specifically at Berkshire and Sheldon. Last year, we did not add anything to the budget for remediation. We will have those conversations in November and December. The pace of approval for work is still pretty painfully slow on that, and so we will also be having conversations around that.
Morgan, can you remind me, I know in a previous meeting we had talked about when we're at that place where we have some plans to consider that the consultant was willing to come and speak with the board?
Yes.
How far out was that? Is that like before we have to finalize the budget? Do you remember timeline-wise?
It is dependent on when we hear back from the DEC.
Okay.
Which has been the wild card in this. So they need to approve us going forward with a plan, and then the consultants would come and say, here, specific to Berkshire, here's option A, option B, option C, here are the benefits, the costs, the drawbacks of each.
So the hope would be that we could come before we have to determine that, because we are in the 3rd school year, I think. Gavin, is it the 3rd school year?
Yes.
3rd school year.
Yeah.
Being without those 2 classrooms, and we've now got the modulars.
The time that I've been here, I've never been able to actually walk into them.
Right. I think that was our gift to you. She hired you and then told you. I think the notification about the PCBs came right after you started.
Yeah.
And there's nothing movement from Montpelier around funding support, money for PCB remediation?
There's nothing this year.
Wow, okay.
Don't anticipate we're going to have a flush year anytime soon. So I wouldn't bet the farm on it.
So really the onus is on us fiscally to address the PCB issues in our schools.
I think that's the safest path right now.
Yeah.
And we will do what we can to maximize the chance that we'll be able to get reimbursed if funding comes in the future, either through more money from the legislature, through the budget process, or through the lawsuit with Monsanto, which is also
No
trickling
grants
through.
for any of that PCB stuff?
There's nothing that we found. But this is why I know people have been frustrated about timeline and why can't we get this done sooner, and this is a whole process, and we have to follow everything and get everything approved at every step of the way in order to be eligible for any of those funds later. So certainly appreciate Gavin and the Berkshire staff being as patient as they've been, and the Berkshire community. And it's something that we're still trying to prioritize. It just feels like these steps take forever in between.
But if we were to miss a step, it would potentially, down the line, jeopardize monies that might become available as long as we have methodically kind of adhered to all of the testing and so on and so forth.
And timelines.
And timelines.
Notifications.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so scary with construction though, once you start digging at stuff, like, start peeling away those layers that you're gonna find.
Always scary.
Indeed. So we'll now go school by school through the staffing changes. And again, this is in your, in the packet I sent. In Bakersfield, we are proposing not filling 2 positions that are currently unfilled. So you'll remember we added a STEAM teacher to be shared across Bakersfield, Berkshire, and Montgomery to the budget kind of late last year. We've not been able to find anyone. All of the principals, I think, have said that they're willing to let that position go, and I think it's kind of, well, they can speak, but I think there's a challenge in scheduling as well with that. Also in Bakersfield, reduction of 2 days a week of a family engagement coordinator position that was envisioned to be shared with Berkshire. That role in Bakersfield is being covered by the guidance counselor. Kevin, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's
Do we have a full-time guidance counselor now?
What's that?
Do we have a full-time guidance counselor?
We've always had a full-time, what we had in the past, Audra, was a full-time guidance and a part-time family engagement coordinator.
Gotcha.
Our
Okay.
numbers don't call for that, honestly. The guidance counselor can certainly fulfill that and do a really fantastic job. And so who we brought in this year was our family engagement coordinator and made him full-time into the guidance.
Gotcha.
So
Okay,
it's-
that makes
it's-
sense.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
actually
gotcha.
beautiful.
So in Berkshire, a lot of fractional changes, and again, for the most part, people that we do not have. So the other third of that STEAM teacher, and then the other 3 days a week of the family engagement coordinator that were shared with Bakersfield. We also had been carrying a half-time health teacher in the budget. The new nurse hire this year is working through getting certified to teach health. Had also, Berkshire had always had a 2-day-a-week art teacher. We had proposed rounding that up to full-time to kind of keep that position as a whole full-time position. That teacher is still in the building working as a paraeducator on the days they're not hired as a teacher. And again, I think similar to Kevin's comment, right now the numbers as we are looking down the road towards ratios don't support a full-time art teacher. And then at the moment, a reduction of just under a paraeducator and a half position. It's folks who have done this in the past. These positions tend to move a lot over the next couple of months as we really drill into predicting the needs. They tend to be tied to students, and students tend to move around, and so we're trying to keep ahead of that. But at least in this draft, we're proposing a reduction of a full-time and then a 2-day-a-week paraeducator position. Any questions on that? In Montgomery, this is the first position that's in CFP that we're proposing moving into the local budget. So for your local budget, it's an increase, but in terms of humans in the building, it's no change. Reducing the other third of that STEAM teacher, reducing one paraeducator position, and then the halftime math interventionist position is something that we've discussed in the past. Montgomery currently has a halftime math interventionist who's very senior and so is relatively expensive. We're contemplating that when that person decides to retire, they would be backfilled with a full-time person for roughly the same amount of money.
Morgan, do you mind if I talk a little bit about the STEAM position?
Nope.
Just, I mean, I don't want people to think that it wasn't necessary or it wasn't thought of. But since last year, we have hired another coach, or not another, but this person, the coach came out of the STEAM role at Sheldon and into the coaching world.
An open position.
And so I'm looking forward to having that person working alongside my current art STEAM librarian to build some sort of capacity within versus having an outside person. So I think that it's an opportunity that we can jump on with, I won't call her Julie Jarvis, but I don't know what she is now. With her. And I think it would be better suited for us to build capacity with our own than to think about finding somebody outside that we just don't know what they're going to offer. We know she can offer a lot, so.
I'm gonna build on that, just to say, we also have Robert Hickey, who's been working at the SU as a tech integration specialist, and he is doing amazing work, because if we're going to move our students and more deeply engage them, it needs to be at the teacher level so that they're able to experience those opportunities on a regular basis. Your spotlight tonight was a wonderful example of that. That was a tool that Robert was able to share with teachers. So he taught those teachers about the green screen and about making those videos. So that's something they could integrate right into their classroom. So the idea of having STEAM as something separate from what's happening in your everyday classroom is, although that it is fun and there's nothing wrong with that model, it would be better if we can build that engagement in STEAM throughout the day with all of our classroom teachers.
Sorry, Morgan, I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Kevin.
So, question. So do both of those people work with all of our schools?
Yes. Well, I can't tell you who Julie's assigned with specifically. I don't know what the case load is, but they definitely, at least through in-service and planning together. But Robert is in all the schools.
Yeah, I already planted a seed in Julie and said, you will be at Bakersfield working with us. So after I watched her last year do her thing here, I said she's coming to us for a little bit, so.
And they're really good about professional learning, so they're willing to lean in and support principals in some of the after-school time.
So I'm excited about that, that's all. Thanks. Sorry.
Nope. And then finally, last but not least, in Sheldon, Sheldon currently has 2 interventionist positions in CFP, proposing moving one of them out of CFP into the local budget. There's also a reduction of 3 paraeducator positions and one of the 2 contracted NCSS positions. And then kind of related to that, adding a behavioral technician to the building. So overall, a net cut of 2 positions in the budget, 3 positions in terms of humans in the building. That makes sense. Any other questions on staffing? I'll go through these next couple quickly because they're not all that interesting. This is a breakdown of what goes into the education fund, which is the amount of money raised in the state and that goes to districts to fund whatever budgets your voters choose to pass. So the blue 1/4 of the pie is homestead property tax. So this is tax on people's homes. Funds about 1/4 of the ed fund. The remaining 3/4 is split pretty evenly between non-homestead property tax, so that's tax on businesses and second homes primarily in red, and then other revenue sources, rooms and meals tax, the lottery proceeds, Medicaid at the moment, and that's the statewide picture, and those numbers are accurate as of this current year. And then on the next slide, you'll see a more detailed breakdown. I think this is more interesting for a lot of folks. There's a perception in many of our towns, probably throughout the state, that they're gold towns and that they're raising more money than they're spending locally. In this one, that red first quarter again is money that's raised on homesteads somewhere in the state that we are spending in our district. The first 4 slices are the slices for amounts raised in each of our 4 towns. And then that last red slice at about between 2 and 3 o'clock on the chart is money that is raised on homesteads somewhere else in the state that we're spending in our 4 schools. Similar with the blue section that comes after that, the first 4 pieces of pie are monies that are raised in our 4 towns. And then that biggest chunk, right between, say, 5 and 8 o'clock on the chart, is money that's raised on second homes and businesses somewhere else in the state that we're spending here. And then that green section is that broader category. That's money that's kind of raised everywhere someone buys a lottery ticket or goes out and buys a meal somewhere. Just to kind of anchor those into numbers rather than pie charts. So we raise about $4.5 million of homestead tax money within our district and about $5 million in non-homestead tax money. We spend $17 million directly in our schools. We spend, as I'd said, about $7.5 million on tuition. So that amount that we raise on homes in our community covers about half of the tuition bill just for 9th and 12th graders. All right, I won't dwell on that one anymore. We can go to the next one. This is the chart that we show every year. It shows the spending per pupil from the lowest spending town at the bottom to the highest spending town at the top. This is current year data, so we're looking at FY26 with this. The range again is about 2 to 1, so the lowest spending town spends just over $9,100 per equalized kid. The highest spends just under $18,300. On this chart, the 2 lines in black are the state average right in the middle, and then the Franklin County average below that. The red lines are all our neighboring school districts scattered throughout Franklin County. And then starting from the bottom, that first blue line is the per pupil spending amount for Enosburg, Richford. And then the next one, about 5 ticks above that, is the FY26 spending for Northern Mountain Valley. If you kind of dig into the data, it gets a little worse. The bottom 5 lines on this chart are 4 towns that don't operate any schools. So they're just paying tuition bills and they don't have to do anything. And that's one of the reasons that they're so low. I think there's only, Enosburg Richford might be the lowest K-12 system in the state. And there's maybe 1 K-8 district that spends less than NMV. So if you start looking at only similar systems, the chart becomes even sadder. And that's it for the slide deck. And so this is the opportunity for you to tell us if you want a major course correction on staffing, because that's really, at this point, the only way that you're going to move the needle. We don't need to do that now. It's certainly helpful. And then at your November meeting, I will bring back a full budget. So we'll start doing the salary projections. Hopefully we'll have real health insurance projections. Hopefully a rough idea of tuition rates, although it'll be a little early for that. And then the remaining 5 to 10% of your budget on what natural gas prices are going to do and how much we're going to spend on crayons and professional development next year.
Can I just ask, maybe I missed it, did you talk about context of where we're starting from as a state this year?
I did not. So when we get into the discussion around tax rates, and that'll really be the bulk of the December meeting, in addition to the headwinds around preparing for these changes in federal funding, we are starting with a hole in the ed fund of 118 million, I think it is. So that's money that we used this year to buy down tax rates. That's probably worth 8 cents, 9 cents, somewhere in that neighborhood. So if that hole isn't filled in again with one-time money that's found somewhere, we're sort of already starting flat level budget, no changes in kids. We're already starting in the hole 9 cents. And that's true not just for us, that's true statewide. We've recently heard some prognostication that there will be some filling of that hole again this year, but it's really hard to put any faith in that this early on in the process. And
We certainly can't
so much
count
under.
on that,
Yeah.
because it would be decided after we form the budget.
Correct.
And historically, is that typical that at the state level, that buyback that then kind of harms us for the next budgeting cycle?
I think, and Lisa, you can chime in on this as well. I think if you talk about recent history, we've been kind of doing it the last few years.
Yeah.
I think if you're talking 20-year history, probably not, but it seems to be a recurring phenomenon now.
And I remember murmurs around that and that people saying that's the problem, that in the moment it helps draw those down, but then you're already in the hole.
And I think we just didn't see the steep increases in property taxes every year like we're seeing now.
Right.
Every year, it's just going up exponentially, so people are grasping at straws and trying to do whatever they can, even though it's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. And Morgan, I assume that when you start looking, going building by building around what staffing changes are happening, that you all are doing that kind of in collaboration with building leaders to make sure that they still feel, given the population they're serving, that they have the adequate number of staff for all the various needs. And then I guess kind of tangential to that question / comment is there some padding that we do? For instance, if we get a high-need kiddo come in who say needs a one-on-one, I assume then we have enough slop in the budget to be able to staff up in the course of a year if needed in a particular building.
So at the local budget level, the concern is always around tuition kids. And do we have a bunch of families that move in over the summer and they have high school kids that are going to St. J, and we've got those 25 grand bills that we have to pay. We can discuss that when we start talking about tuition kids. That whole process it's not guesswork, but it's estimates, because we know that there are kids who have gone through, their first 9 years in Montgomery Elementary. They're going to go to Enosburg High School next year, but maybe they have a parent that lives in Enosburg, and then you don't have to pay for that tuition bill. We also know that families move out and families move in over the summer, and that those, unlike when that happens to a sixth grader, you don't have to hire another teacher for that. For high schoolers, you get a direct dollar amount with that one way or the other. So we'll have that conversation more around the tuition kids. In terms of high need kids, if they are on an IEP, that's the SU budget that has to absorb that. And so part of the work that we've done in the past is to build up that unreserved fund balance that we have, because the supervisory union is not allowed to borrow money to make payroll in July, August, September. And that's an area where I think we try to budget that as tight as possible, knowing that if we miss it and we do have a few expensive kiddos coming in, that we can tap that fund balance for a year to use it.
Great, okay. And then I guess one other question, circling way back to the beginning of the slideshow with the kind of anticipated calendar of the budgeting process and that tricky piece around voting on our budget before Enosburg and Richford have set their rates. But I'm curious, even sometimes when we've done that, we then still have this truing up situation because they set a rate, but then they're not 100% entirely sure at the end, when everything kind of sugars out at the end, they may come back to us and say, well, it actually cost us $12,500 versus $11,800 to educate each of your kiddos, and then we still have to true up.
Yeah, and so we should anticipate in the next couple of months that we will get the allowable tuition amount. So that's the amount that public schools were supposed to have charged. I would predict this year that Enosburg and Richards is going to be higher. I have no idea about Maple Run, which is where you send a lot of dollars as well. but we will probably have a bill from Enosburg Richford. You have the option of paying it off this year and getting it off your books within this budget year, or we could budget for it next year as well. So you can take a year to pay that bill. And so when that comes in, it'll feed into this budget discussion, and that may be an area where we say, well, it's, I don't know, it's $200,000. Let's put it in the budget for next year and pay it next year and not do it this year. That will be largely based on what tuition bills, where kids show up this year and how we look at it. That's also another way that if we do budget it this year and if we budget it for next year and we get to May and we feel like we have the money, we can write the check, and then that's the amount of money that you have to protect you if 3 families move in with 3 kids each.
Yeah, okay. And I have one more question. Can you remind me where we stand from the state level around choice and allowable private school options? Because that has changed from Montpelier, correct?
Correct. So that has changed, and I would assume that this is pending a lawsuit, although I don't know that one's been filed yet. The universe of schools that you're allowed to pay tuition to has pretty dramatically shrunk. The AOE has published a list of schools that are eligible going forward. Okay. If somebody had an acceptance letter by July 1 of this past year to go to a school that was previously allowed, that those kiddos get to stay there until they graduate. Gotcha. So you've got probably, I think it's about a half a dozen kids that are grandfathered in schools that you're not going to be paying new kids.
Gotcha, okay. And for anyone who may be watching who's interested in choice for their students, you said there's now a list on the AOE website that they can reference. Correct. For the schools that are allowable now. Correct. Moving forward.
And so any public school is allowable in Vermont,
sure.
But the list of private schools that are eligible has dropped.
Okay. But it's not a given with the public schools because some of those are done by lottery, correct?
They can still apply through the choice, but there are space limits.
It's right, it's not a given.
Correct.
But you're sending them to those schools with a big check, and so I think we've never seen a situation where a tuition kid has been rejected because of space.
Gotcha, okay.
School choice, the public school choice, which this board doesn't have to worry about, is a different animal.
Right, okay, thank you.
Correct, I said that backwards, wrong board.
Great, thanks, Morgan. Anything else on the financial report?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, so Lynn, you're up with your report.
So I will start with new hires. Emily was in the room. She's left. We have support staff hiring: Emily Grimm's Berkshire Middle School boys soccer coach, Sheldon Sarah Bonnier.
Yeah, Bonnier.
Paraeducator / building sub. We have one resignation: support staff Alexis Churchill at Sheldon. These are open positions that have been there for a while. Half-time help at Berkshire. I think you still have a math interventionist position?
She did take it.
Okay, we still have a math intervention position open at Sheldon. That's a grant-funded position. And we have not been able to fill the STEAM teacher position. So those may actually, it might make sense to take down both of those positions at this point, if there's no objection, both the STEAM and the health teacher at this point in the year.
Makes sense.
So,
and did you need motions on any of these? None of these
they're
are
all
action?
support staff.
Okay.
I just need to make a note.
So just so I'm clear around the STEAM teacher, so because we have Julie on board at the SU, is that accurate? She's
She's
pushing
an instructional
in.
coach.
Okay, so we're trying to build more capacity throughout
Yes, both her and Robert Hickey. So it's not impacting the STEAM teacher that you have in Sheldon.
No, we needed that extra.
Right, you
because
needed
of
the
our
other
site, our
part.
population.
For sure, but I'm just wondering for the whole,
Yeah,
for the entire district, just where it's how that works. Okay.
your building capacity. So I had put some demographic information in here just because we're going to be talking about sizes, numbers, board goals as a reminder, what we've been working towards in FNESU. So those are familiar, I would assume, to everyone who's here. And just the demographics that'll evolve this year. We've used that in our annual report, that format, for the last few years. That was our October 1, 24 data. So I can give you a side-by-side of that as we shift for 2025 data. So you could see that of the 1,931 students that we're serving, 1,104 are economically disadvantaged, 369 students are on IEPs, 49 students are considered homeless, 25 are multilingual learners, 15 were eligible for migrant education, 133 students were American Indian, Alaska Native, Black, African American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, or multiracial. So I can bring, as I said, new data the next time. As everyone knows, at this point, Vermont has passed Act 73, and that is the Education Transformation Law. And one of the pieces that I am leaning into and sharing with you tonight has to do with class size minimums, because October is the month that we talk about our class sizes in our board reports. So you'll have access to this slideshow at the end. There's a link at the top that brings you to the full text of Act 73. It is quite lengthy, 147 pages for anyone who is interested. And there's a lot in there. So for tonight, we're just going to talk about the class sizes. So this was a part of the bill that was, I would say, heated at the end of the process, where people really pushing on, what is the appropriate class size minimum. So what we have done for years is we have referred to our class size policy that we have, and now we have new class size minimums those will supersede our policy. So in first grade, class sizes should be a minimum of 10, second through fifth, a minimum of 12, sixth through eighth, a minimum of 15, and ninth through 12th, a minimum of 18. One thing that they put into the law is that if you create a multi-age classroom in grades kindergarten through 8, it's limited to just 2 grade levels. So for some of the very small schools that have been putting together like a K through 3 in one classroom, that isn't going to meet the minimums, and it's not going to be allowable as we move forward in this. Pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, CTE programs, flexible pathways, terminal courses, advanced placement, things that require specialized equipment, driver education. We don't have a ton of clarity on all of this language, but I hope that is coming. They're exempt from the minimum class size requirements. Anything that has to do with the work we do in our MTSS system or special education, also exempt from class size minimum as per this law. Does anybody have any questions about this part? So here's your October 1 report. So we take a look at our numbers. Morgan presented on your enrollment during his report, so I pulled that from mine. So if you look on the left side, that's the grade cluster, and this is organized like our policy is. So by grade cluster, principals have reported out for math instruction. In our policy, it says we'll have a minimum of 10 students in K through 2, minimum average. And Vermont Act 73, those minimums that I just went over there are reflected in that column. So if you follow it across, you'll see we've, in alphabetical order, that is Bakersfield's data at 11 in their K through 2 average. So 2, I'm not sure where it lands with 2, we don't break it out that way because it's an average, but they're very close. Berkshire, Montgomery, and Sheldon are all over in terms of class size average. K2 reading, again, 10 and 12, depending on the grade level. Bakersfield's at 11, right in the middle. And then we are in Berkshire, Montgomery, and Sheldon. We're over class size minimums. We also report out on all other classes that they take, and those are the same minimums. In 3 through 6 math, again, 3rd through 5th grade is 12 student minimum, and 6th grade is 15. In Bakersfield, their grade cluster minimum is 11, and the others are 17, 15.75, and 17. So Bakersfield's very close to that minimum. The others are all over. It is the same numbers for reading, and also the same numbers for all other. And that is generally because in most of those grade levels, you have single grades. They're not multi-grade, multi-teacher groups. In 7th and 8th grade, 15 is the minimum class size. We're at 14 in Bakersfield, 20 in Berkshire, 16.5 in Montgomery, and 14 in Sheldon. So just under in Sheldon, just under in Bakersfield. So you can see by way of the work that's been done, there were some strategic decisions made by principals around class sizes last year as we were moving into this school year, with that really in mind, to make sure that we're positioned well for those new class size minimums. So we know that these minimums will be a part of the accountability measures that we are held to by the Agency of Education. That part is not as clear to me what report that will be included in, but we do know it is one of the things that they will be measuring.
I have just one question about,
Sure.
as we're looking at blending classrooms, is the size of the classrooms. So if you're a school like Bakersfield, who is just close, maybe missing it by one student, and the next class is missing it by one student, you put those together and you have 22, 23 kids in a class. Are classrooms for a small school like Bakersfield meant to hold that many students in one space?
It's a great question. They have to meet fire code. It is, there's language a little further on in the full law that we do have to look at capacity in the room. And they're going to report out on where we are year to year, but they're also going to be looking at a multi-year average. So they know, like we do, that we're going to have bubbles, that some years there are going to be a lot of students at a grade level, and you might have a bubble class that has to work its way through. Typically, for these principals, especially the principals in the schools that have one teacher per grade level, we generally have one small group that kind of works its way through. So they'll be looking at those averages.
I just worry that you take two classes that are very close, but just because we don't quite make that one student, we throw them together, and then have a lot of kids packed in a very small space that have been used to having more space, and what that dynamic actually does for the students in the class.
I do know that where it has happened, the principals have been very strategic around using interventionists and other staff to be able to break them apart into multiple groups. Yeah. So reading, by way of example, you might have these students go with this reading teacher in another space, and
so they're not spending a ton of time
that
together, all kind of little sardines.
I think one of the things that's hard too is, Audrey, when our schools were built, it is based on square footage of a room and number of bodies and size of the bodies. But we were also then very much in desks and chairs and rows, and with the new configuration of tables, I think it makes it harder for teachers and kids, because those tables take up a lot of space.
Yes.
So yeah, it may be a furniture issue too.
It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did experience that in one classroom recently where I thought, well, we could get different furniture.
Yeah.
And had a conversation with the leader about that.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure, as we're looking at budgets and all this stuff, those are all pieces of this equation that change as these classrooms, these numbers get larger, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, we have had a couple of classes that are like I think we had one, Gavin, in your building that was like 9.
Yeah.
And we had to do some grade configuring.
right now
Kevin
part
had a
of
really
4 or
small group in
5.
Bakersfield as well. So both Bakersfield and Berkshire contended with this year, and merging didn't put them so far over that it wasn't manageable. It was still within a reasonable number of students. Any other questions on class size? Okay. For the part that you have all been waiting for, I introduced this to you last May and promised you information that I then couldn't produce for you, but I have the information now. So we had talked about the Agency of Education and their monitoring plan. So there are 2 bodies of work. There are district quality standards that are new, that were developed by rulemaking with the agency. And then there are education quality standards that were developed by the State Board of Education. So we're held responsible for both of those sets of standards. And for the first time, the agency is going to be measuring through a beta test. So they're going to be doing a self-assessment, and we're responsible for, I'm going to give you some documents in just a minute. We're responsible for running through a self-assessment of where we are on a select group of those assessment indicators. So that beta test is intended to just run us through the process. In the winter of 2025 or maybe 2026, this winter at some point, they'll do a state of the state report on those self-assessments. So it will not be identified by school, but what they told us in a meeting today is that they're going to look for the trends, and they're going to report out on trends related to the indicators that were a part of the beta test. In the spring, they will continue to develop and refine quality standard self-assessments, so rubrics. The rubrics, when you look at the district quality standards, which I guess I can start passing these out. If you look at the district quality standards, the rubrics are not fully completed to my knowledge. Maybe they are, maybe they're just not visible. So they still have some more work to do. They're also going to look at feedback from the beta testing to determine whether or not they need to do any revisions to that. So what I have just handed to people is a full set of the district quality standards. And for those who are watching, these are found on the Agency of Education's website, and I have the link in the next slide as well. So I went through the district quality standards today, and I looked at the agency's list of the quality standards that are in the beta test, and I highlighted those for you. So you can see those are the ones that we'll be assessing this year. When I look through, we're in great shape for some of these, and we have work to do in others, which is probably about where everyone is across the state, because these are brand new standards that we need to begin working towards. So next fall, all of the district quality standards will be in play. So we'll be expected to do an assessment and assurances that we are proficient in these indicators. It's not clear to us if there's an evidence-based submission. They have office hours. They're teaching us about each of the areas that they're gathering data on this year. And so I'm still trying to determine how that's going to look on the other end of this. What's different next year is, 1, that we assess all of them, and 2, that during the next school year, sometime in the winter, will be the first publication of SU and SD quality standard results of each of the reviews. So all of the data from all of the schools will be released publicly related to the district quality standards. So what I'm going to, my computer might have just died.
Mine did. Must be catching.
Uh-oh. It's okay. If you could go to the next slide, I think I can keep up. It's restarting. Okay, so what I'm going to pass out to you now, these are the rubrics that were just recently released. These are the pieces that I said I would go over with you last spring, and they weren't released until just recently. I might need to pass a few more this way.
Can I ask a question, or do you want to wait until the end? So on the first packet, when I'm looking at a lot of the governance priorities and things around specific to the board, and that kind of rest in the realm of the board, I'm just curious, so is this part and parcel of Act 73, or is this them trying to take the temperature currently of all the boards
oversight
and districts and SUs around the state in kind of advance of this major upheaval? Like, I'm curious, like, why all of this? Why now, when we are right on the cusp of a fundamental change from Act 73?
It's a great question. The question was worded almost exactly the same at our meeting today on this, in our webinar. So this actually was in the works before Act 73 began being considered, or at least being publicly considered. I would say that what they're trying to do is get a temperature of where people are across the state. They're trying to look where they have things going well, where they have things not going well. I think, to be honest with you, I think there are some of these measures that are also potentially looking at viability of certain systems, because they're making, I think I got it back. Thank you so much, though. Let me just finish this. I must have bumped the button on the side that just shut it down.
Oh, right.
And because security is very important, I have to just give me a minute to do my two-step authentication.
The dreaded,
right,
but beneficial two-step
absolutely.
authentication.
But every time you're like, oh, come on.
Appreciate having that.
Absolutely, it's important.
So I think that we didn't get much of a response today. That's my instinct, is they were planning to do this anyway, and I think that these district quality standards are intended to make sure that, one, people are in compliance, and then providing some technical assistance where that is not happening. So I think they're continuing to move forward with this, and I think it provides them information that maybe potentially informs future decisions, is where my thinking goes. So what I just passed to you is, did everyone get one? Because I do have an extra one for some reason. So the rubrics, these rubrics will be used to assess the indicators that are highlighted in your first packet reflect each of the rubrics. So the first yellow you see reflects this rubric. So these are the steps that we'll be going through. So my understanding is evolving, as I said in my first meeting today. I believe at this point it's the supervisory union board that will be responsible for doing this for the entirety of the system. And so I'm giving you this as a local district board just to inform you of this process. And your SU representatives will be talking about how they want to tackle this. We don't have a lot of time. The reporting window opens October 15th and closes, I believe, just before Thanksgiving. So not a lot of time to go through an assessment process and familiarize ourselves with these rubrics, but we will make it happen and we will meet the deadline. So we'll talk about that at the SU meeting. Any questions on the rubrics or on the district quality standards? I put some in the slideshow, some examples just to help us. So the first, by way of example, is something that falls under budget and accounting. So that's a district quality standard. So if you look, it gives you what the indicator is on the left side. And then you look at proficient. That's where we're hoping to be at the end of this process. It might not be where we are right now. Go up one. You were just there. There you go.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So it might not be where we are now for some of these indicators, but that's okay. It is our starting point. The second example has to do with governance priorities. So this is about measurable goals and review of progress. So if you look at the proficient category, these are our expectations that we're trying to get to. So next, I just want to bring us to the next screen. So there's another set of standards linked in this next image. These are called Vermont's Education Quality Standards, and these are the standards that the State Board of Education has developed. So these were revised, and they went live on July 1, 2025. The opening to the Vermont's Education Quality Standards says, all Vermont students are afforded educational opportunities that are substantially equal in quality and are equitable, anti-racist, culturally responsive, anti-discriminatory, and inclusive. And if you look at the wheel to the right, these are, if you break apart the education quality standards, there are 6 big themes: equitable learning environments, instructional practices, flexible pathways, continuous improvement plans, tiered systems of support, and curriculum content areas. So we have been working towards these education quality standards for years. A lot of what is in the education quality standards aligns with information. If you've been on the board a while, you've heard us talk about Act 173, the pillars in Act 173. That's what we've centered much of our work on, is trying to make sure that we're in a position where we're doing those things well. So we have if you go to the next slide, Courtney, we have developed a professional learning plan, which is one of the expectations in the ed quality standards, is that you have a needs-based professional learning plan. So if you look on the left, those are our professional learning priorities. They're centered on reading mastery, that light blue circle, our portrait of a learner work, school culture, our multi-tiered systems of supports for students that need anything from reteach in the classroom to intervention to specialized instruction or something totally different, and responsive and high leverage practices. So we did is crosswalked. If you look at the pie, again, that's the education quality standards. And then we looked at how are we trying to meet the standards that are established for us in the education quality standards. And when you lay that over the top, all of those circles represent what our professional learning priorities are and how we're trying to address those education quality standards. So you can see the deliberate intention of our work over the course of the last 5 years has been centered on first Act 173, next Vermont's education quality standards that had been in revision and went live this July. So we're positioned pretty well for meeting the education quality standards. It will be ongoing work. We're not there on any of it, but we've been working very, very hard, and we have really strong systems in place, and I feel as though we are going to be able to provide evidence for many of the indicators in EQS. We have had education quality standards for years and years in Vermont, decades, I believe, and there hasn't been a measurement of those education quality standards. So when the agency, I'm going to go back to district quality standards for 1 second. When the agency developed the the district quality standards, if you look on page 8 of the district quality standards, there's a section that actually says quality assurance, and it says self-evaluation, and then it has a list of State Board of Ed rules. So all of the things that are listed there are things that we will be having to provide evidence for. So it's curriculum coordination, local graduation requirements, needs-based professional learning, staff evaluation, tiered system of supports, and access to instructional materials, state and local comprehensive assessment systems, and continuous improvement plans. So my hope is that all of those things are familiar to the people in this room, because these are things we've already been working on for kind of a long time. So this will be a part of that self-assessment. The 2 pieces that will be a part this year in the EQS have to do with our comprehensive assessment plan and our continuous improvement plan. So I took one of those rubrics from EQS that is in the district quality standard beta test, and I put it there for your review. I know that was a lot. Do people have questions about the distinction maybe between the two, or anything about the assessment?
Can you clarify for me this one on page 9 of enforcement?
I mean, I'll try. page 9. Yes.
These are
The agency
not
is
insignificant
correct.
enforcement strategies.
So I think this is a piece that is often invisible, and I've said this to my principals. I've said this to a teacher leadership team that I work with. A lot of times the work that we do at our level, out of our office, is people don't understand where it's coming from, and it's kind of invisible. We have a responsibility to meet the expectations that are written into our quality standards. In state statute, for as long as I've been an administrator, which has been a pretty long time, the agency has had the authority to step in when a school is deemed failing and take corrective actions. These corrective actions, to my knowledge, are no different than the corrective actions that have existed in statute for a very long time.
Okay.
So for those that are listening, that, you know, if an SU isn't meeting something, or a district isn't meeting something that is assessed, they'll be provided with an opportunity to take corrective actions to fix what is deficient within a 2-year period, notification from the agency, and then the agency makes a recommendation to the state board for one or more of the following actions. The agency can continue to provide technical assistance for one or more cycles in review, or the state board could adjust supervisory union boundaries or responsibilities of the superintendency. The secretary can assume administrative control of an individual school, district, or supervisory union, including budgetary control to ensure sound financial practices, only to the extent necessary to correct deficiencies. The state board shall close an individual school or schools and require that the school district pay tuition to another public school or an approved independent school pursuant to Chapter 21, Title 16. And the state board shall require 2 or more school districts to consolidate their governance structures. That's if you have been given corrective action and you are unable to meet your corrective action. So when we talk about our district quality standards, again, these are new, our education quality standards, which are now revised, so also parts are new. We need to continue working to be in compliance with the standards that are outlined in both of those documents. We will be assessed and will be offered corrective action if we are not meeting them. Any other questions?
And these just dropped when?
I mean, the district, we've had these. We've known about these. These were published. To be honest with you, I don't know if we want to take credit or not, Morgan, but we were asked to sit in on some of the early drafts of this, just to hear and give a little bit of feedback. So they've been working towards this. I want to say it's probably been 2 years. It would have been Dan French's last year, I believe.
That's been longer than 2 years.
It was right near the end of his last year. 'Cause I think Zoe is approaching the end of her first year.
But then she was sort of there.
Here's where she finished. He started and then Heather Boucher finished. But the totality of this hasn't been as long as that. This is the district quality standards themselves. I'm trying to remember, last spring, maybe? I think we talked about them at one of our May board meetings, but I didn't have this.
Right, that's what we were waiting on. It was going to be homework for the summer, but then they weren't even available yet.
So I want to say we've probably had these for a couple of weeks at this point.
Yeah, okay.
It's like a state audit.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. And so this is going to be more in the realm of the SU board?
Correct.
Okay.
But I think it's important for all board members to understand the depth of work. I think it's important for community members. I just want to say I appreciate that you stayed to listen to the totality of the meeting. I love that you're here and I love that you did that. So I wanted everybody to be informed because a lot of this is what guides the work we're doing within the system.
Will all of these documents be online for us to see?
I can think about, I don't usually publish the slideshows. I can We can get the district quality standards and the ed quality standards up.
I can't see all that well.
How about if you stay and I'll give you the links? So I'm going to shift, if that's okay, to my last item. I want to talk a little bit about information that I got from the Agency of Education today about the impact of government shutdown on our schools. So, and I'm going to ask Morgan to jump in on this as well. So much of the money that we receive from the federal government is forward funded. So a lot of the things at this point, we already have the money for. So I think he's already talked a little bit about drawing down the federal funds, and that is a little less alarming at the moment. Child nutrition is the thing that's standing out a little bit. So when it looks like we have the money in hand through October. November, it looks like if the government is still on shutdown, that the state has reserves that they could help to get us through November. But then we will have implications around reimbursements for our child nutrition programs if it goes beyond that period of time. So that's something that we'll have a conversation about. We're still going to feed our children. I want to make that really clear. But there will be some financial implications for us, and we'll have to make decisions around where do we take that money from. We do have some reserve if we need to for situations like that.
The hot lunch, breakfast program.
Yeah, the money we get back. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think if we are in November and we still have a government shutdown, there's probably a lot of other stuff we're going to be talking about at that time as well.
And there are implications in terms of the staff that are no longer working at the federal level, and that will have an impact on us as well. So I just wanted to put that in there. It was hot off the press this morning, and I thought let's talk about it.
It's timely and significant.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Anything else? No. Okay. All right, so we'll move on then to our principal reports. Kevin.
All right, I actually have three things. One, I just want to start real quickly and say that I've seen a lot of videos of school boards and towns getting hammered at but the discourse today, which was really civil, felt really good to see. And Mary and Lynn, I credit both of you, always starting off with that. I think was really helpful. And, it's not going to be a meme or go viral. So that's a good thing. But it was nice that it just felt good. We heard people, and people, I think, felt heard. And then I always like to just quickly say I have an amazing staff, and I love my job. I just do. I get up every morning excited to go there. We're doing great things, and it just makes me happy to be a part of it. And then it also reminded me, as I saw a lot of the central office folks up there today supporting, and just reminded me of just a couple of weeks ago, Michelle the Bird stopped in because she meets every week or monthly or whatever it is, and just having the village mentality, that it takes a village to raise our children, right? And so Michelle and her professionalism and her knowledge and her genuine care for students, not only in Bakersfield, but also across our district, and taking the time and asking, what did I need at the building level, just felt really good. And it just adds to that really love of being a part of the system. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Appreciate it. Gavin.
Well, I'd like to echo, first off, what Kevin said, but also I am a little disappointed that so many people did leave, because I did have some wonderful data to share, particularly about our academic growth, namely that during our STAR testing for both math and literacy, 51.7% of our students tested at proficient, but I think more impressive would be that 64% of our students showed growth in literacy that would be at level or actually above level, and that's actually a 5% increase from last year. In addition to that, For early literacy, we had 59.3% of our students showing above typical growth, which is a 9% increase from last year. We're still at 40.4%. However, that's also early literacy, so we know that kids are coming in with some gaps that we're going to catch them up on. And then for math proficiency, we were at 52.8% with 57.9% of our students showing at or above typical growth. So that's something I definitely think we should celebrate. I definitely think it's a sign that we are working towards the right direction and we are seeing that growth. Obviously, we won't stop until we're at 100%, and even then, we're probably still going to keep going. But I think that's probably the biggest thing. In terms of social emotional learning, we did once again see, just like from the year prior, we've continued to see decreases in students needing to access our student support center in terms of major behaviors. Minor referrals was decreased by 11, and then majors by 44 referrals. So once again, we are seeing the data is beginning to show that our efforts are yielding some positive results.
Nice.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thanks so much, Gavin. That's excellent. Sandy, anything, I know you did your whole spotlight, but anything you'd like to highlight from your board?
I would just like to thank Christina and Emily and Robert Hickey for putting that together. And I'm always bubbling with pride when I get to show off what our kids can do. So that made me happy tonight to see that. I wish they could have been here, but it was very beautifully done. And I'm also, I wrote on my report about an upcoming field trip that our middle school will be going to engage with the river. But I'm grateful for the collaboration that we have, the partnerships that we have and had over the years with the Montgomery Conservation Commission, the Franklin County Natural Resources Conservation District, and now this is a Missisquoi River Basin Committee that has, association that has kind of brought this river engagement piece together for us. So it's the 4th year in a row that our middle school kids have gotten outside with an educational outdoor field trip, and it's local. So I really love it.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Terry Sue.
2 really brief things. Right before, my second thing is I have Courtney going to show something. The first thing I don't have pictures for, but our 3rd and 4th graders participated in the Flynn's Kick Line program. And so they were down at the waterfront. If you watch the news story that was on them, you can see our kids, because one of our teachers was wearing our neon green Sheldon shirts. You'll see them briefly in the little clip. But I wanted to end today on a really good positive. Lynn was in my school yesterday, and it was our annual staff versus student football game. Staff won again, yay. So I have 2 pictures from it, so you can see the action shot. And the other picture is the team of the middle schoolers. And it was such a blast. And it's just something that I love every year. It's one of my favorite days of school because everyone's outside. It's fun. We only had 3 bee strings this year and no injuries, so life was good. So
I was more worried about your teachers with injuries.
I know. Well, last year we had one. That's why I was like, oh, no. This year, everything, it was great. And I didn't know who won at the end until I had to ask my assistant principal, and he was like, we did. And I was like, good, because last year you tied. But no. So it was really fun.
Won.
What?
I heard the kids won.
No, they're wrong. They definitely did not.
As long as they believe that, it's
Who
good.
told you they won? Sean said they won?
No, but even the kids were telling me, the middle schoolers were going, yeah, the teachers won this year. But you know, the little kids didn't know. And half the little kids were cheering for the teachers. I was riling them up too. That was my job, is to rile them up and get them screaming, teachers, go teachers, go teachers. It was really fun. So that's what I'm ending on, is the fun football game that we do every year. And it was perfect weather. So that's it.
All right.
I hope you all have a good night. We'll see you at Sheldon next month.
Can I just add something? No, say what you're going to say.
I would say I'm excited to have you at Sheldon next month.
Oh, excellent.
We have a good plan.
Oh, good.
For a mixed martial arts
I
night.
share something for what?
Martial arts. Yeah, if you think 3-year-olds can do it, sure, why not?
I want to share that Sheldon was recently recognized for earning gold status for their PBIS work in their pre-K through 8 building. That was a huge accomplishment. We talked about that yesterday, that 2 years ago, they were at bronze, they earned silver last year, and this year, they did the work to get to that gold level. So they've put a ton of work in to really focus on their positive behavior intervention systems, and I'm very proud of Sheldon and pleased that they were honored with that. And I just want to say that Berkshire has been doing work related to PBIS as well, and I think that you earned a commendation for that, just kicking off the work this year.
Yes,
And I think you're working towards those medal levels.
Yes, we're hoping to. Positive behavior interventions and supports. And it's basically like, sort of like, it's not even a program. A lot of people say it's more of like a mindset, where it's basically just looking at promoting pro-social behavior through core instruction, then through targeted instruction, and then through specialized instruction based on student needs.
I wanted to throw that in because it's important to celebrate.
We'll get our award on the
Congratulations.
14th. I'm very excited to get to receive it in person.
Excellent. That's really
Killington?
Yeah, down in Killington for the day. Yeah, 3 hours there, 3 hours back. It's fine.
wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. Really appreciate all those reports and such good stuff happening. And it's still early in the year, so much more to come. So that brings us to our board business. We have a few things to tend. Not everyone may know that John Jecek has stepped down off of the board. He reached out to me in the middle of September-ish with it to need to step down. So just wanted to kind of give a shout out to John for, his many years of service on the board, and he's been a valued and appreciated member of our board community here. And so we do now have a board seat vacancy for someone from the town of Berkshire. And generally the process is people who are interested can reach out to me and send a letter of interest that then the board will consider in the next month. We will appoint someone to fill that seat for the remainder of what John's seat term would have been. So he would have been up in March.
Only fill it till March.
So it'll be filled until March, and then that person and anyone else interested from Berkshire can get the necessary signatures. Morgan can talk people through that process when the time comes. We have a little bit of time. And be on the ballot. And then it is up to the collective voters across NMV to vote for that person for a seat. But in the interim, from November until March, the board will consider all interested applicants and make a choice. So anyone who's interested, please direct them to me, and then I will facilitate that with the rest of the board.
And your email address?
My email address is Mary, M-A-R-Y, .Niles, N-I-L-E-S, @fnesu.org.
Also can be found on our website.
Absolutely. Okay, so somewhat connected to that, we do have still that SU seat potential vacancy, as Emily is interested in transitioning off of the SU board. So that remains an option, or we may just appoint the new Berkshire person. So we shall see. Hopefully they might have some interest in serving on both boards, but if anyone is interested, definitely feel free to talk to me about that. Any future agenda items that we should name at the moment? Always time, of course, to reach out with agenda items. Our next meeting is a date change, so it looks like it's going to be Monday, November 3rd at Sheldon. And is there anything else that folks would like to discuss tonight? Okay. Okay, well, I thank you for being here. I'll make a motion then to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. All right, appreciate you all. Have a nice evening.
Everyone.